This is the climate change as we see it. Like when we came yesterday, it looked like an inferno in here.
So let's focus on two factors with clear connections to climate change. One, when we burn fossil fuels, it puts greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, making it hotter. And physics tells us that the hotter we make the atmosphere, the more moisture
Fires putting firefighters to the test.
This is still a very active firefight.
The Encino and iconic Brentwood neighborhoods among those ordered to evacuate after the Palisades fire changed direction, spreading east. That dramatic shift in winds causing this, flames coming down the Mandeville Canyon. Firefighters are doing their best to save these nearby homes.
Definitely some scary stuff.
On Saturday, airdrops on flames continued over this canyon. The FBI says airdrops have been disrupted by drone incidents over fire zones well into the double digits, a serious risk to crews flying aircraft.
There is nothing that I will not do for the city where I was born and raised.
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass under growing pressure over budget cuts that LA Fire Chief Kristen Crowley says limited her department's response to the fires to a certain factor. Mayor Bass on Saturday debunking rumors that she fired the chief.
The fire chief and I are focused on fighting these fires and saving lives, and any differences that we might have will be worked out in private.
Also to be worked out, the failure of some fire hydrants in the Palisades community.
Two blocks down, there's a fire hydrant that's working just fine. The one, 2 blocks above us is not. So.
Governor, I live here, Governor.
Even California Governor Gavin Newsom confronted over the issue earlier this week.
Why was there no water in the hydrants, Governor?
I mean, that's all literally.
Is it going to be different next time?
It has to be.
Newsom calling for an investigation into those water supply issues.
It's pretty traumatic. You don't have water in the fire hydrants. I mean, what kind of place are we living in?
As the blame game behind these fires grows, so does the need for help for the tens of thousands evacuated, many starting from scratch after losing everything.
It's like we're living an alternate reality. I still don't feel like it's real.
The Red Cross opening shelters countywide, this one near the Palisades fire completely full.
As a lifelong Californian, we know wildfires. This isn't uncommon, but to see devastation at this scale is just heartbreaking.
Yet amid the ashes, survivors cling to what they do have.
Everyone rallying together and just working together, like it feels warm because everyone feels like a family.
And Willie, I had to put my respirator back on just because the smoke here is so thick. We're putting this off and on in between takes, so just wanted to mention that in our tag here. You know, firefighters, they are weary but resilient, and they will once again have to battle these flames under red flag warnings as those Santa Ana wind gusts are expected to reach up to 60 miles per hour.
Governor Gavin Newsom, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Good to be with you.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
6 different wildfires raging right now. Do you have the resources to combat all these fires at this hour?
Yeah, we got 14,000 people working the line right now. We doubled the National Guard. We have 1,680 out there helping on the logistics side. I was just with folks from Mexico, 73 folks. They'll be relieving some of our hand crews. We've got 9 states that are now providing under this EMAC system support. So we've got the resources, but we have more important we have the winds that have changed, and that allows us to be more resourceful with existing resources, particularly the aerial resources.
What's the mission of the National Guard here in Southern California?
Combination of factors. We have the rattlesnake teams that are doing the line and working with the hand crews. We have other logistics.
You're here with us on Meet the Press to announce
disaster assistance teams out here. They're already starting to get out here. We've come up with some times. I got to button up the canyons here as it relates potential for way. As the crow flies, there was snow right up the mountain here the same day as this devastating fire here as it relates to changes that border we just announced.
CEQA governor and the Coastal Act are both environmental regulations, and if you're going to be suspending those temporarily, are you concerned about problems that may result from the suspension of those environmental regulations and the potential abuse by developers?
Yeah, we're not going to, and within this executive order, we frame those abuses. We basically bookmark that in the context of maintaining the existing footprints. The Coastal Act, they allow just a 10% variant, so we're going to be very mindful of that. California leads the nation in environmental stewardship. Packages happening, and we saw our gallons issues. The challenge is the winds. In fact, the day of this, and we've been more meaningful. So all of us want to know those answers, and I just don't know a crisis here in Southern California. Support from the President of the United States of the crisis, but we're here after the crisis as opposed to creating a crisis in the middle of this by trying to divide people and play political. It's not about finger pointing. It's about did it contribute in any way? States are asking, yelling about what the hell happened? What happened to the water system? Was it, and by the way, was it just you had so much that was used, we drew it down? Was it pipes? Was it electricity? It was a combination of pipes, electricities, and pumps. What was that drawdown impossible because you lost 7,000+ structures right here anyway, and every single structure we lost had a pipe that was leaking, and we would have lost that water pressure anyway. Did it contribute in any way to our inability to fight the fire, or were 99-mile-an-hour winds determinative and there was really no firefight that could have been more meaningful? So all of us want to know those answers, and I just don't want to wait because people are asking me. I want to know those facts. I want them objectively determined, and that the chips fall where they may. This is not about finger pointing.
You say what to people who insist that these independent investigations or calls for them? Are you passing the blame on to other people?
How could it be when we're doing an independent investigation and we just want the adjudication of the facts? As I say, it's not about finger pointing. It's about answering the questions you and everybody wants answered. And I think there's a propensity to wait to answer those questions. And people want immediacy. They want response and responsiveness. And so that's the idea.
Ultimately here, does the buck stop with you?
I mean, you're governor of California. You might as well be the mayor of California. We're all in this together. We're all better off, we're all better off, we're all better off, and we're working together to take care of people and to make sure people are supported, we're empathetic, and we're here not just in the immediacy of the crisis, but we're here after the crisis, as opposed to creating a crisis in the middle of this by trying to divide people and play political, take cheap political shots.
Do you have faith in Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass?
I have absolute faith in our community. I have faith in our leaders. I have the faith of our capacity to work together.
President-elect Trump has blamed you for this crisis. He called you incompetent. What's your response?
Well, I called for him to come out, take a look for himself. We want to do it in the spirit of an open hand, not a closed fist. He's the president-elect. I respect the office. We have a president of the United States that within 36 hours provided a major disaster declaration over a text. We had support from the president of the United States, Joe Biden, with 100% reimbursement, all the resources you could hope for or imagine, constant communication. I'd like to extend that to the president-elect. I don't know what he's referring to when he talks about the Delta smelt and reservoirs. The reservoirs are completely full, the state reservoirs here in Southern California. That mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us. Responding to Donald Trump's insults we would spend another month. I'm very familiar with them. Every elected official that he disagrees with, very familiar with them.
We do know, though, from reporting here locally that one reservoir that serves the Palisades was not full.
And that's exactly what triggered my desire to get the investigation, to understand what was happening with that local reservoir. That was not a state system reservoir, which the president-elect was referring to as it relates to the Delta and somehow connecting the Delta smelt to this fire, which is inexcusable because it's inaccurate, also incomprehensible to anyone that understands water policy in the state.
My understanding is that you have put a call into President-elect Trump. Has he called you back?
No, that was months ago. That was after his victory. So I look forward to him, again, coming out here in the spirit of cooperation.
Forgive me for interrupting you, but you did invite him to come out here. Have you had any response?
No.
Nothing. Multiple times, Mr. Trump has threatened to withhold aid for California wildfires, both as president and now again as president-elect. Are you worried that he might actually do that?
Well, I mean, he's done it Utah, he's done it in Michigan, he did it in Puerto Rico. He did it to California back before I was even governor in 2018, until he found out folks in Orange County voted for him, and then he decided to give the money. So he's been at this for years and years and years. It transcends states, including, by the way, Georgia. He threatened similarly. So that's his style. And you know, we take it seriously to the extent that in the past, it's taken a little bit more time. I've been pretty expressive about that in the context of someone threatening our first responders in terms of supporting the immediacy of their needs.
That's what you take it as, that President-elect Trump is threatening the first responders here.
Well, I mean, it's what he said. He said, I'm not going to support the firefighting efforts. I'm not going to support the state of California as it relates to its emergency management. He made this pretty clear during the election, unless they do my bidding. And again, these are familiar terms, and they're familiar to a lot of other states, not just my state, and they're familiar to not just me as governor, but the previous governor of California, Governor Brown, that was battling with these same things. So you just work through these things, and I'm just blessed. I mean this. I'm blessed. I have 40 million Americans that happen to live in California, that Joe Biden's president of the United States and did what he did immediately. And to the extent that we can work with the same relationship and that same spirit with Donald Trump, I hope we can.
President Biden, last time I saw you in the Palisades on Wednesday, right after this fire started, you were on the phone at the side of the road trying to reach President Biden. Subsequent to that, he pledged 100% of the disaster recovery relief for the next 6 months. Is that enough?
Well, it's significant. I mean, in fact, when I was on the phone, you saw me on the phone, I was trying to get the satellite phone work, I asked for 90%. And he said, no, I'm going to do 100%. It was a big deal. 180 days is a big deal. But he also had just provided the major disaster declaration, and we did the press conference the next day. And that is profoundly significant because that's individual assistance, disasterassistance.gov. People should go to disasterassistance.gov and start filling out applications, get that immediate relief, and then get longer and medium-term relief. But no, he stepped up in a way that an American president should step up, and I couldn't be more proud of him. That's not a political statement. That's not because I'm a Democrat saying that. That's because I'm a human being trying to help other human beings in the most extreme elements in the most difficult time of their life.
As you know, Governor, there are many California residents who have struggled to obtain fire insurance. What happens to these Californians who cannot afford to rebuild?
Well, we created them. We had a major issue after the Camp Fire. In fact, I was governor-elect during the Camp Fire, and it precipitated in the largest bankruptcy, or rather, a bankruptcy of the largest utility in the United States of America, PG&E. Process of getting them back on their feet and beginning to underground and deal with vegetation and forest management differently in California, which, by the way, we've 10x'd the forest management investments in the state since I've become governor. We created a wildfire fund. That is around the utility issues. On the insurance side, we did an executive order a year ago to do climate modeling and to address some of the wildland-urban interface in terms of requiring insurance to be placed before we can increase rates. We have created a FAIR plan, or at least expanded a FAIR plan, and it has reinsurance. We're assessing, as we do the damage assessment, the total value of the claims, and we will determine what to do after we understand the magnitude of those claims.
Some of these Californians in homes that burnt like this were thrown off of their policies, their fire policies, before this fire season. What do you say to those Californians?
No, it breaks your heart. I mean, this is an issue, and by the way, persists in California because of the acuity of the new realities. Hot's getting hotter, dry's getting drier, wet's getting wetter, these atmospheric rivers, all the flooding that we've experienced in California, but also across the rest of the United States. You're seeing insurance rates through the roof, et cetera. But here's the point. We've been proactive in trying to stabilize that market. That was the executive order a year and a half ago. Insurance commissioner has been moving in that direction. I'll give you a proof point of some of the success of that. Just a week ago, a major insurer announced they were reinsuring in Paradise, California, where the Camp Fire was, because people repopulated. Farmers said they were coming back. So we are very mindful of that, and that's why the FAIR plan is that backup plan. But I'm also mindful of this as someone on the FAIR plan, intimately aware of how it works. It's not the kind of insurance that you get on the private sector, meaning you're not getting as much in terms of that protection.
It also raises questions about whether or not taxpayer dollars should be used to put people back in these highly vulnerable areas like the one we're standing in right now. Should they?
Well, I to the extent look, the issue here, and particularly in Altadena, some of these homes were built in the 20s and 30s and 40s when you didn't have the building codes that we have today. You can see, and you saw this, the camp was a masterclass at that, in the context of seeing why do these buildings survive, these buildings didn't. It's not in every case, I'm not naive about that, but the buildings that tended to survive were ones that were built after 2008 with a higher threshold of building codes. And so as we rebuild, we will have these higher levels of codes and standards that should help protect.
All right, enough of that stuff. I'm just going to jump over to here. Let's see what's going on in the latest information. This is some bullshit.
Let's get right to the latest on the fires, including the scene over the Malibu coastline. Gabe Santos in Air 7.
Look at the Malibu coast. That's crazy.
Yeah, Mark and Irene, this is our first look without kind of a layer of smoke overlaying the area. So this is really the first time we've been able to see the damage on the Malibu coastline. And just like all the other areas, it continues to be shocking and hard to believe because it's a long stretch of PCH that is completely devastated. All these homes that, you know, we've all grown up and seeing in movies and seeing in TV shows and the like are just completely gone. But as we widen out the shot, we can kind of paint a picture of what the scene looks like now and show you the current fire activity. And the point with that is that there almost is none. We're seeing a couple little spots of brush that are continuing to burn, but for the most part, fire crews were able to contain the fire on the west side and on the east side at Mandeville Canyon. And you can see now from this view, that's the entire burn scar, or a good portion of the burn scar, and there's no more smoke rising from it. So that's a good sign. We might be at a place here. We don't want to let our guard down because there's another wind event possibly coming later in the week. But this is definitely a good sign for people who have been dealing with a very difficult week this past week.
Contained.
Live in Air 7, Gabe Santos, ABC 7. I would.
You know, it's only 11% contained, so no. Yeah, so when you look at all the stuff that's going on, let me see here. They're expecting the winds to intensify. I'm just going to leave it at this right here. Let's see what Trump has to say. All right, because
great content needs a great audience, like Santa Claus needs cookies.
What? Talking about all the money and all the stuff he's funded towards deforesting and the U.S. Forest Service, and when it comes to cleaning up and whatever, dude, he didn't do shit.
The blame game is unfolding tonight. One of the most vocal critics, of course, President-elect Donald Trump. He is blasting Governor Gavin Newsom on social media. The California Democrat, in turn, inviting Trump to come on the ground to witness the devastation firsthand. And News Nation correspondent Libby Dean live for us at the White House tonight with the latest on this back and forth. Libby.
Natasha, the current president has been in lockstep with California leadership when it comes to fire response. But the incoming president, Donald Trump, and California's governor on a much different page. This week between the incoming president and California's governor.
I think that Gavin is largely incompetent, and I think the mayor is largely incompetent, and probably both of them are just stone cold incompetent. What they've done is terrible. Would anybody have a comment on that? Because when you talk about losing the tax base, you're losing a lot of, you're going to lose a lot of those people permanently. Those people pay billions of dollars in taxes.
As fires rage on in California, Governor Gavin Newsom is inviting the president-elect to visit the devastation. In a post on X, Newsom saying he and Trump should work together and not politicize a human tragedy. A much different approach from President Biden, who has been supporting Newsom and other California leaders as they face criticism for underpreparedness. Yeah. Newsom has also called for an investigation into local fire hydrants after comments made by the president-elect. The Democratic governor saying in part, quote, "We need answers to ensure this doesn't happen again, and we have every resource available to fight these catastrophic fires." Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, along with the Los Angeles Fire Department Chief Kristen Crowley, have also had their fair share of differences, with Crowley criticizing officials on Friday for cutting the fire department's budget. But in a press briefing today, they both say they're focused on fighting the fires.
Let me be clear about something.
We'll fight the fires now, and I'll fire you later, is what she's saying.
The fire chief and I are focused on fighting these fires and saving lives, and any differences that we might have will be worked out in private. But right now, our first and most important obligation to Angelenos is to get through this crisis. When the fire is out, there will be time for us to evaluate. But at the same time, we also must begin the recovery effort, and there'll be more to come from that in the next few days.
Over the next few days and into the next week, we will be facing another critical weather event. I want to assure the residents within our incredible city of Los Angeles that Mayor Bass, Chief McDonald, and I are in lockstep together, and that we will utilize every single resource at our disposal to ensure public safety and that we holistically protect Angelenos.
In a meeting Thursday, President Biden with an awkward turn of phrase.
Madam Vice President, I know you're directly affected, so you fire away. No pun intended.
Indeed. President Biden has pledged federal aid to cover the costs of rebuilding these communities. Now, when I speak with people in Trump's circle about what this looks like, a potential California trip, because that is the question now, they actually tell me that Trump would likely wait until he's president to be able to bring the full federal resources. So they would wait until he actually is in office in 9 days to make that California trip. But certainly something to watch for in the coming days. Natasha.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wait till you are, sworn in as president to actually go out there. I mean, it makes sense. He's not the president right now. So, it's that's perfectly fine. And then, it's just crazy though about what's going on here. And Paris Hilton, her famous line was "That's hot," right? So when she first saw her home go ablaze, the first thing she said was, "That's hot." Just saying, I know it's just kind of a corny humor, but yeah. So anyhow, that's your latest here. Only 11% contained, and winds are kicking up. We're going to see what happens. We saw the Newsom new interview, and we know he's so full of shit with the stuff he's claiming. All right, water ran dry because there's no water. He didn't, pull back, cut back, take care of trim and all the stuff. Brush, all that stuff like they were supposed to, right? They canceled between him and the U.S. Department of Forestry, which is federal. They all canceled all that work to be done. They trying to ban gas-powered stuff anyways for us residents to utilize in cutting grass and, blowing and all that stuff, cleaning up. And so, he has no one to blame but himself, because he's been warned throughout media, throughout time and time again about what needs to be done, what should be done, and what he hasn't done. And now he's going to be responsible for one of the most largest disasters in U.S. history. Him and Karen Bass, because Karen Bass is woke and didn't take care of her city like she should in terms of priority, and cutting budget, allocating budget to other bullshit, and then you see the repercussions of that. anyhow, that's your latest update here. We're going to see what happens as the days go on. Very fascinating stuff, though, at the same time. You know, the stuff that you find out, the stuff that gets uncovered, it's like, wow, wow. Every day, it's always like, wow. Anyhow, that's the latest. Comment down below, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and I'll see you next one.